When I worked at San Quentin, once someone who was involved in an incident and the handcuffs were applied, the situation was deemed over. Why do you think murderer Derek Chauvin, who killed George Floyd, and his three cronies felt so comfortable to commit murder for 9 minutes, knowing it was videoed? And why hasn't anything been done on the federal level to send police a clear message that this is despicable?
It's basically because the law invites predation. And I would trace it back to a historical root. And I want to sketch out where militarized policing started and where we got these kinds of impetuses towards murder in slow motion in broad daylight. People forget that mass incarceration and militarized police in the United States started with the war on drugs, particularly in the 90s. And at the time, we didn't know, though it subsequently was admitted by the CIA that the agency was running crack cocaine into LA and Miami to fund its rogue foreign policy and human rights abuses abroad. So what was the result when cops started dying in US streets, gunned down by narco traffickers, armed, trained, and equipped by the CIA? We militarized the American police departments. The militarization of police is a misguided response to the abuses of the Central Intelligence Agency. And the idea here that we have misdirected the response and what we have done in response to the CIA's abuses is jail millions of Americans of dark persuasion and subject millions of others to the insecurity of not knowing if they're going to make it home at night. It compounds the travesty, right? And I think the reason why we see police feel this impunity is because even at the institutional level, there has been total impunity. No one ever paid a price for that. No one ever paid a price for the millions of dreams that have been taken from us. I mean, the people, if you consider the damage of the war on drugs internationally over the last generation, it's incalculable. And it was entirely a contrivance of our own domestic agencies' criminality around the world. And I think
this whole law and order thing was completely made up.
And impunity is the rule. I think that's what cops have internalized. If you have a badge, you can do what you want. And that's a message that's been sustained and reinforced by every example, every instance of a prosecutor turning a deaf ear to the concerns of a community after somebody died. Every time we say their names when the cops weren't held responsible, every time, every one of those incidents reinforces and emboldens that sense of an ability to prey on the public that they swear an oath to swear and protect. I think if cops came from the community, if we had laws in place that hold them accountable for their abuses, and if we defunded police departments that didn't respect human rights, I think we'd see very different behavior from police. And if we don't see the behavior from police, I think we should be firing police officers. There's another piece here, maybe just to note. The labor movement in the country has really suffered very dramatically. It is striking,
very dramatically,
right? The strongest unions around the country are police unions in almost every.
They're not what you normally. They're not behaving ways that you normally associate with unions. They seem, if anybody's been infiltrated, there's something sinister going on there.
Well, and that's my point precisely, that police unions and the role that they play is so antithetical to the labor movement generally, and so reinforcing of, frankly, this fascist dynamic. I mean, I saw the police union here in San Francisco hyper politicized, coming out, sending, misinformation in the mail about candidates to be the DA. And I think it's really silly that we allow police to flex political influence when they're already killing people in the streets. Like, is that not enough?